All right, welcome. This is our Learning Bitcoin and Design session for June 28th. This is a call we hold every once in a while in the Bitcoin design community to help people learn about the technical topics that they're designing for, and also to, learn about new design tools and stuff like that. So gotten a lot of questions lately about Bolt 12, and so decided to do a session on that. Um, Disclaimer right here at the beginning, I'm not an expert on Bolt 12, um, not a Lightning Protocol developer. I'm a front-end developer and, UI designer. So, um, take my opinions with a grain of salt. And if anybody feels like, they have, better information to share than me, please do. This is kind of a open participatory conversation. So don't feel like you need to just listen to me. If you have questions, ask questions. If you just have comments, then, feel free to jump in where appropriate. So just general sense, like who is everybody like kind of familiar with Bolt 12 already, or there is anyone who's just completely unfamiliar with it, has no idea what we're talking about? And Christoph says some more people need edit access, so I'm giving it to them. I'll just set it to anyone with the link can edit right now. There we go.
Is on.
So, oh, hey, Dulcie.
We can, one suggestion, Stephen, we can use the emojis to kind of do surveys. Like if you don't know what it is, you can say "boo."
I see. Yeah, the reactions. Yes, that sounds good to me. If I hear a boo, then I'll take it to mean that somebody's not following. Just like a simple recap real quick is that like Bolt 11 is what we typically use for Lightning invoices. So if you're running a Lightning wallet on your phone and you get a QR code, it's more than likely going to be a Bolt 11 invoice. I'll just pull one of these up from the design guide right here. We have this, what is it? This whole page here called payment request formats that goes into all the different formats that you can get. And it just occurred to me there's supposed to be, I thought there was a QR code here, but I just realized I think that's on the newer version of the page that hasn't been published yet on the website. But yeah, it's basically you get your Lightning wallet. It's the QR code you see. That's a Bolt 11. So the kind of like the limitations that we have with Bolt 11 are that they're one time only. So if you try to pay an invoice more than one time, then it's a security risk, right? That somebody on the basically a Lightning node. I'll save you the gory details for right now, but the basic gist of it is that if you try to pay a Bolt 11 invoice two times, you run the risk of having some money stolen. So another kind of limitation of this is that you have to basically you have to get the invoice from the sender, or I'm sorry, from the recipient. So it's like kind of the opposite of on-chain Bitcoin, where we think of it more like, okay, I have this person's address, and I can send to this person's address as many times as I want. If you're privacy focused, you're not going to do that. You're going to use a new address every time. But in general, there's this idea that like you can kind of send coin to somebody without their consent. But with Bolt 11 on Lightning, it's like they have to give you specifically an invoice, which is kind of like an instructions for how the Lightning Network is going to help them get paid. So these are kind of like some of the limitations of Bolt 11. So then this Bolt 11 thing, this Bolt 12 thing comes around, and it kind of fixes both of these things. So Bolt 12, we call them offers. So I'll go ahead and I'll just take note of that here. So they're called offers. They're reusable, and you can actually, how to phrase it, you don't need to ask the recipient if you can pay them before you can pay them. So like think about like the user use case of this would be like, you know, right here, this kind of thing works really well for like, you know, a cash register or something like that, or you know that, or just, you know, paying your friend over your wallet works really well for that sort of use case, because, you know, that's like an interactive sale where both parties are like making the sale together at the same time. So I'll take note of that. Works well for interactive sales, friend paying friend in real life, or paying at a cash register, right? It works really well for those kinds of things. But like Bolt 12 offers are better for these kind of non-interactive payments. So like the thing that comes to mind would be a tip jar, donation form, that kind of thing. So that's like that's the general gist of Bolt 12 and kind of what it does. Thank you for moving that. That's the kind of general gist. And I mean, I've got some other, you know, kind of stuff I can talk about. Like there's a really interesting article from Shinobi that kind of outlines a lot of the other kind of interesting, fun things that Bolt 12 could do. And I also have a like a quick project me and my friends hacked together where we actually implemented Bolt 12 that I can show you if you're interested in seeing that. But I think before getting into all that, I just like to kind of open things up and see if anybody has any questions, if what I'm kind of saying right here is tracking with everybody.
I just have a.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
When you say like non-interactive payment, you just mean like you can just make available the Bolt 12 offer and people can scan it and just give it to this offer basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, if you were a musician on the side of the street right now and you wanted to get tipped over Lightning, it would be a little bit hard because you would have to stop playing music every time somebody wanted to tip you and like open up your phone and generate an invoice for every person, right? That would be on the Bolt 11 side. But with Bolt 12, you could, if you were that musician, you could print the Bolt 12 offer and you could put it on your tip jar or like on your guitar case, and
Yeah.
people could just scan it and pay you and you never have to stop playing.
Okay. And when you say you don't need to ask the recipient if you can pay them, that just means that the recipient doesn't need to send you a new invoice every time you want to pay them.
Exactly. Yeah. Now,
okay.
Well, if we want to get a little bit technical here, what's really happening is the Bolt 12 offer is actually telling the two Lightning wallets, it's basically kind of telling them how to communicate with each other so that, like, let's say I'm the musician with the Bolt 12 offer and you want to pay me. So you walk up to me, you scan the QR code on my guitar case, and under the hood, what's happening is your phone is going over the Lightning network, pinging my Lightning wallet saying, hey, please give me an invoice. My wallet is saying, okay, here's your invoice. And then your wallet is paying the invoice. But that's all happening in a very, very quick automated way. And the user doesn't even know about that.
All right. Got it.
In fact, I might draw that out just to make it real clear to make sure everyone's following. So it's like, so we would have like, you know, recipient, LN node, and then we would have like sender's wallet. And then we might have, you know, something here that would be like the Bolt 12 offer. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy this one from Rusty's website.
Okay.
And we'll just call that Bolt 12 offer. And then we'll just say like you know, step one, you know, sender scans offer, and then using information contained in that offer, sender asks the node for an invoice. And then, you know, we'll just have like a little flow diagram here. And then the recipient node will, you know, no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one here. And then, yeah, forgive me while I'm being nerdy about like my design layout while we're doing this.
No worries.
And I'll say 3 node responds with an invoice. And then we'll say again that, and really I need to get this one out of the way so you can see a little bit better. And then we'll say for sender pays invoice. So that's kind of like what's really happening, but on a technical level, that's kind of what's happening. But all of that kind of like all of this stuff up here kind of happens without the user needing to intervene. So yeah, that person doesn't need to give them an invoice.
Okay, but the recipient still needs to show the Bolt 12 offer. So do you think like in the future, like the sender could save the Bolt 12 offer?
Well, it's an interesting question. Like could there just be like a easier to grasp username and stuff like that?
Yeah, something like that.
I think so. Like, you know, it's still kind of early days, but like
Okay.
what we have is like, I think if I'm getting the website right. So, you know, you've probably heard of Lightning Address now after your time working on Blake's wallet. And so Lightning Address kind of does that. You know, it formats something looking like an email address, which is, you know, arguably easier to grasp and remember and use than, you know, something that looks like that or something that's a long string of numbers. Now, Lightning Address uses something called LNURL. So, like, if you wanted to replicate something like Lightning Address on Bolt 12, I want to say I saw a tweet or a paper or something like that that was called the Bolt 12 address. And I wasn't actually clear if it was a joke or if it was serious or if it was a mix of the two. But I think the point of it was basically that, like, if you wanted to do something similar to this, where you're having username at domain.com, you could also achieve that similar type of thing on Bolt 12.
Okay.
It's a theoretical idea. I don't think anybody's actually built it or implemented it, but I don't see any reason why it couldn't be done. Assuming that, you know, assuming that Lightning nodes all around the world start supporting Bolt 12, I don't see why you couldn't create some kind of username service for it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's a real thing, no? Bolt 12 address.
It's a real address. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know that anybody's implemented it yet. Like,
oh yeah,
like
I think it's kind of too early. I mean, all this is it's the same mechanism as Lightning Address, where you just have like a file on a server somewhere, and that tells you basically what Lightning node to talk to and how to talk to it. I mean, that's essentially all this is.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And
thank you. Oh, sorry.
that
Go
actually.
ahead, Steven.
Oh no, sorry. Do you have another question? I was going to segue
No.
into something else, but
You can segue into something else. I was just saying
well,
thank you.
because it was a little bit related, you know, because you asked about like, well, could there be a username, and you know that got us talking about Lightning address. Well, you know, Lightning address is built on LNURL, and so you know, a common question is like, well, why not just use LNURL? You know, I think this article does. You know, this is Shinobi's opinion, but I think I would agree with it. I think it does a good job of outlining the difference. Kind of, you know, they both, LNURL does a lot of things. If you go and you look at their spec, repository. This is going to look scary for a second. Oh, that's not the spec repo. That's like some Reddit thing. But yeah, here it is. I mean, if you go look at it, there's a lot of, specs and all that. So there's a lot of different things that LNURL can do. But in terms of like what Bolt 12 does, there's a lot of overlap in terms of just being able to, reuse payment requests and all of that. But the primary kind of difference that he talks about in this article is that LNURL requires it to be hosted on a web server. So what that would mean is, just to go back to, our Figma drawings right here, is that, in an LNURL setup, you need your Lightning node, and then you need your web server with LNURL installed. And then, you need to make sure that these two are able to talk to each other. And then you also, need to make sure that the web server has proper security and all of that, like with any, web server you run. In the Bolt 12 world, it would just be Lightning node that supports Bolt 12. Like, you see pretty clearly the difference between these two. There's a whole other piece of infrastructure that you just don't need when you're just using Bolt 12. So that's interesting. And so, but I think that the point that he makes is really good in this article is that for businesses, like this kind of arrangement is perfectly good, because if you're a business and you probably already have a website, if you're selling stuff online, you probably already have some kind of web server. You may even be comfortable with using some kind of cloud web server or something like that. So the needs of a business are different than the needs of an individual. So LNURL, like it works today, it works very well. And this kind of infrastructure is kind of a no-brainer if you're running a business. But if you're an individual, and again, the tip jar use case is kind of the, I don't know, like golden ratio of it's like the thing that everybody wants to achieve with their Bitcoin design. Because if you're just an individual who wants to be able to receive tips and receive it from anybody and not be beholden to a provider, Bolt 12 might be a better option, assuming that we can, get it to work the way that it's advertised. So yeah, I think I think that the two protocols can coexist. My personal opinion is that LNURL is going to kind of move forward as like the protocol for business more, and that Bolt 12 is probably going to be more of a protocol for individual wallets.
Yeah. Is there like interoperability issues with that? Let's say a business uses LNURL and then the individual has Bolt 12. Can they like communicate or
Well,
that's like, yeah.
right now, Bolt 12 is incredibly experimental. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and tag that on the top here, just so that, we remember it later and people scrolling through the video really fast can see this. Like, I think the only node I think only Core Lightning supports it right now. Core Lightning definitely supports it. I want to say some other implementations are working on it, like LND doesn't support it. I think LDK is working on it. I'm not sure what Eclair's status is. So it's very experimental. So right now, yeah, there's absolutely compatibility issues with Bolt 12. Basically only Core Lightning people can use it. As with LNURL, yeah, there's compatibility issues with that too. But they do a good job on their kind of repository here of like keeping a log of all the different services. And so, again, LNURL has like a lot of different components. Like each one of these documents outlines kind of like a different like feature or thing that LNURL can do. So they have a list here and it says like, okay, that refill supports LNURL 1, 2, 6, and 16. But yeah, there can be compatibility issues sometimes. If you have a Lightning wallet that doesn't support, whatever particular feature of LNURL is in that QR code and you try and scan it, hopefully it'll give you a friendly error message that tells you what's wrong, but yeah, there's no guarantee of widespread support, or I should say, there's no guarantee of universal support.
Got it.
Now, I thought it might be good to like look at some of the other kind of like features that Bolt 12 has. There's some kind of interesting stuff here. So like, yeah, let's just look at some of this. Okay, so one thing that is not listed here that I think is really cool about offers is that you can denominate them in other currencies. So let's just maybe look at some of these examples for a second. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing website ever, but let's just like focus on like what the text is telling us. So, this would just be like, a very simple Bolt 12 offer right here. And it's like, this just tells you which node to pay. Okay, cool. Very simple. But then this one it has a fixed amount. So then you could define like, okay, this is, if you want to pay me 50 sats or something like that. So this offer would be scoped to a specific amount of Satoshis. Then you can start doing these interesting things like recurrences, and you can basically make an offer that it's kind of like forms the basis of a subscription. So the user could essentially scan this offer, and it would basically be for like, hey, this is for a subscription service, and you need to pay me 5,000 Satoshis every single week. So then it would the Lightning wallet should, if it's working correctly, it should pay that Lightning node 5,000 Sats every week. So that's real cool because it then creates like a Lightning protocol native way of making a recurring subscription payment. This one's doing it on the minute, obviously, but it's only scoped to 3 times. So it'd be like, okay, you're going to pay me 100 millisats every minute, but stop it after 3 times. Now here's where it starts to get interesting. This one here, look at this one. Offer asks for up to 10 USD every day. So this is a really interesting one because they're actually denominating the offer in dollars instead of in Bitcoin. So like, how would that work? Well, I'm not entirely sure. If I had to take an educated guess, I would say that the Lightning node that generates this offer probably has to be hooked up to some kind of price API or something like that, so it can get an up-to-date feed on the price. And then when you scan this QR code with your phone, it's going to send you back an invoice that is whatever, like it's whatever the current price point is. It's going to send it to you for that many Satoshis. So this kind of solves a problem a lot of people have where they want to denominate their prices or denominate their invoices or their purchases in a fiat currency, but the Lightning Network is going to settle things in terms of Satoshis. And a lot of times the solution thus far has been to just say, like I think this is the recommendation we offer in the guide. That's like, hey, if your invoice is sensitive to fiat price fluctuations, then set your invoice to expire, every minute or something like that. That's been kind of the best case solution right now, but Bolt 12 offers could solve that just by creating an offer that's denominated in dollars, and then the invoice is generated and paid in less than a second. And there's no risk of price fluctuation. So I think that's a real cool feature of offers right there. I think that all of those things offer, clear benefits to the user. Now we can get into some like super nerd stuff over here. this stuff, but like this stuff is maybe more user focused, and the designers on the call might be more interested in some of this. So might like to take a pause for a second and see if anybody has any kind of questions or comments about these use cases here. Sup.
Yeah, I was wondering, can he handle, is this just USD or multiple currency?
I'm pretty sure you can do it from multiple currencies. Because if you look at, here, if I zoom in here, he is giving the command that a developer would use from the command line to generate this offer. And I'm pretty sure that, yeah, I mean, I think you can just type in whatever currency you want there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I don't know, what I'm personally unclear on is like how strict this is. Like, I mean, I'm sure at the very least it's got to support like euro and all this and yen and major currencies, but like I don't know, like, are the currencies you can use hard coded into the protocol or what? I'm not really sure. Does anybody
Mm-hmm.
else happen to know the answer to that? Kind of curious if I just go like look inside the. See, I'm actually on GitHub now, and I'm actually looking inside of the document. Wait a minute. It's actually probably easier if we just go onto the website and here we go. And the amount can be in a non-lightning currency. If the currency for amount must specify the amount in currency unit adjusted by the. I see. So it says here in the spec, must specify amount in the currency unit adjusted by the ISO 4712 exponent, e.g. USD cents. So I'm wondering if there's like an ISO, like the international standards body. There must be like some like ISO specification for like how you express certain world currencies or something like that. So it might be that that you can specify any kind of ISO recognized currency, but I might be majorly wrong on that.
Mm. That's really cool.
Yeah, so I guess I'll move on to some of this like crazy stuff over here if everyone's kind of feeling comfortable with the user-facing use cases. So like we have this new feature that you probably heard the developers talking about called Taproot. That it's a major upgrade to Bitcoin. It activated last November. So that means that it actually all of the nodes on the network actually officially recognize that after that block, like I think it was, I don't know, block 700 something thousand, whatever it was. Point is that after that block, you can now use the Taproot feature. So getting like too deep into Taproot is probably like a little bit beyond the scope of this call, especially for like the design community. But I think it's important to kind of understand that like Taproot's a really, really important upgrade. It's really, really complicated. It's kind of difficult to understand if you're not used to reading about cryptography, but it offers a lot of really incredible use cases. I was just talking about this at PlebFi the other week, so I'm all like nuts about Taproot at the moment. But one kind of thing I'll just like say real briefly about Taproot is like if I go to mempool.space, one kind of cool thing that's real easy to understand, if I just go search for a random address here, I'm going to say BC1Q. So this is what we call a native SegWit address. This is just kind of, nowadays it's, the common, it was the most current, address format. And if I look at the details, I can see the witness, and this is basically like the signature. This is like, the person kind of signing off saying, yes, I have the ability to spend these coins. And let's go open up in a new tab here, and let's search for a Taproot address. Let's say BC1P. That's how you can tell the difference. It's a Taproot address if it begins with BC1P. So I found this one right here. Let's just find one. Yeah, it's spending from a single output. And let's take a look at the details, and let's look at the witness. So you see this right here. Again, it's a signature. And compare it, like, watch as I switch browser tabs. This is the SegWit one. That's the Taproot one. You see which one is smaller? This is the Taproot one. So Taproot, so this is using something called Schnorr signatures. That's kind of part of the Taproot upgrade. You can't really separate, Taproot and Schnorr, to my understanding. And the thing about it that's real cool is one thing about it is Schnorr signatures is so much smaller. So this means that we can cram more transactions into a block. Look how full the mempool is right now. Well, we can fit more transactions into a block if they're smaller. So that's real cool. But Schnorr signatures also provide a lot of things, a lot of other good things. So let me go back real quick, and I'll say, let's see. Let me just go to the home page here, and let me just pull up the most recent block, and let's just scroll through and see what's in this block here. Okay, here's a really good example right here. So as I'm scrolling through here, here is an address that says multi-sig 2 of 3. Well, how do we know that it's multi-sig 2 of 3? How do we know that this transaction took 2 out of 3, spenders to sign off on it? Well, we can basically look at the transaction details, and we can look at the types of scripts they're using for this transaction, and we can tell very easily, some of how this Bitcoin is secured. So this person, whoever they are, has lost a little bit of privacy. We can tell a little bit about this transaction. But the thing that's so nice about Taproot is that this BC1P address, we don't have a clear way of knowing if this is multi-sig or single sig. Single signature and multi-signature, they all look incredibly similar. So it's really nice in that regard. It offers a layer. It's not like full privacy, but it offers an additional layer of privacy that can benefit everybody. So one thing, and another just kind of general thing, is like you can spend really complicated transactions without revealing all of the details of all of the possible spend conditions. You can just reveal the condition that you're satisfying. So one thing you'll notice here is that Bolt 12, kind of supports Schnorr signatures. So I think that is probably going to add an extra layer of privacy to Lightning if people are using Schnorr and Taproot. There's also things called blinded paths, which basically means it's kind of, the way I understand it is you can basically pay a Lightning node without really knowing who you're paying. So like currently when you want to, pay a Lightning node, it's like, if I go, let me just like, I don't know, I want to find like a channel here. Oh God, it's been a while since I used this website. Here we go. So I'm going to look. Come on, website, load. I see what the deal is. The problem is I'm like looking at the biggest Lightning node on Earth, and that's why it's taking the page while to load. But they have this address right here, and it's like, it looks like a long complicated string, but it's like da 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 at 3.33. That's basically the address of that Lightning node, and you pretty much know, when you're paying an invoice that you're paying that node with that public key, right? You know who you're paying. But with a blinded path, you can make a payment to a recipient, not really know which node the recipient is, but still receive proof that the person got their money. that's pretty trippy. So that's going to be a huge, incredible boost for privacy on the Lightning Network. Imagine if someone with a tip jar can have like a Bolt 12 offer QR code on their tip jar, and you know, it's using blinded paths, and there's no way to, once you've given that person a tip, there's no way for you to be able to spy on their node and figure out how much money they have in that node. That's a huge privacy benefit, I think.
Really nice. Great.
Yeah, because right now we're all just publicly spying on all the nodes on this website.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny when you think about it, and that's okay
Yeah,
for
it is.
async because they're a company, but it starts to feel a little bit weird when it's just some pleb trying to stack sats, right?
No, definitely. Oh, cool. So, Steven,
Mhm.
so blind path has never or how to say this, blind path has never it's not related to the fact that um Vault 12 you can receive payments without being connected to a web server, right? That's like totally different.
That's that's something I don't fully understand myself, and
Okay.
I don't. I'll say what I do know, what I've heard, but I want to go ahead and say that being not a protocol developer, I might misinterpret some of what I'm hearing. But one criticism I've heard of Bolt 12 is that some people say that it kind of has too much in it, like this one. Um, Lightning improvement spec is adding all of these other features, like Taproot, like blinded paths, um, like reusable payment requests, like fiat currencies. And I've heard some people say, like, couldn't we implement all of these other things separately? And then I think I saw somebody else say in a tweet, say something like, well, yes, you could implement all this stuff separately, but at that point you would have ended up creating something kind of like blinded paths. So I don't know. I don't understand. That's one of those things that I kind of, leave the Lightning implementation developers kind of let them, or, debate that amongst themselves. I'm not entirely sure what the benefit it would be of like implementing blinded paths separately to Bolt 12 or not. But I know that there's been some kind of debate about that.
Get it. Okay.
And then I see a couple of comments here. Christoph made a remark that Steve presented about Taproot and community call number 6, and there's no recording of it. Wow, that's going way back. But there's a link to a previous presentation in the comment. And then Kate's asking, is blinded path node collecting sats for service? I don't really know. I don't know. That's a good question. I got to say, my understanding of how blinded paths actually works on a technical level is pretty weak. Like I haven't actually read, every single line of the spec yet, so I'm not entirely sure. Like I'm not entirely sure if you need to be like collaborating with other nodes in order to make blinded paths work or not. Does anybody else on the call know?
Yeah, I guess I don't know, but my thought was, well, if I'm paying someone I don't know, how are they incentivized to even receive or be the transfer agent?
Well, I mean, I guess my thing about it is like the thing about Lightning is that you kind of have that sort of situation happening already on Lightning, where uh, you know you have multiple different nodes routing payments to each other. And hold on, let me get back to my Figma window. I mean, like real simple example is we have Alice's node, and then we have Bob's node, and then Chan's node, and then we have Dina's node, and they can all route payments to each other. And like if Alice wants to send a payment all the way to Dina here, she can route that payment through Bob and Chan and Dina, and Bob and Chan are going to be incentivized because they're going to claim, Alice is essentially going to, basically leave some sats for them as the payment gets routed. Are you like super familiar with how like onion routing works, or?
Yes, I have my own node.
Okay, cool. So you're already very familiar then. If you're running your own node, you're already very familiar then with the, kind of the idea of, getting a fee, getting paid in a fee for your channels. So I think with Blinded Pass, the incentive model would be very similar. That's my educated guess. You could still construct an onion that routes payment between all of these different nodes, that where everybody gets kind of a transaction fee or a tiny cut of the payment. I want to say that it operates something like you have like, I don't know, some other node or something like that, to where like your offer would, I don't know, have some reference to this other node that's not you, and then if you were routing the payment instead, it would go through this other node, and then kind of get passed on to you. And I think that the incentive structure, again, would be the same through all of these. It's just that Alice doesn't really know. I mean, she might know that she's paying Dina, and that like she knows that she's paying Dina for a service or something that she's rendered, right? But she may not necessarily know Dina's pub key, if that makes sense. She just knows that the pub key of maybe the blinding node or something. But I need to learn more about that, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Obviously, I'll look into it on my end.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm hoping with my BitDevs meetup soon to do like a Bolt 12 reading group or something, and kind of get the local hive mind working on this topic, so I can learn it a little bit deeper. Well, I've got something kind of cool I can show everybody. But also, if anybody has any other questions, I'm happy to, questions or comments or whatever, I'm happy to talk about that. But let me see if I can pull up this cool thing real quick. Let's see. I think I just need to do like yarn start maybe. See if I can figure out how to get this running. Okay, cool. So this is a project that me and some friends worked on at the BTC++ hackathon in Austin. And we wanted to try, we were just interested in learning how to work with Core Lightning. And we also were interested in Bolt 12 offers. So we decided to try and build a project off of this. And so we built kind of like a prototype for how you would create a recurring subscription for like a co-working space using offers. And so this is kind of like this landing page, when someone is, kind of been invited to join the space, they could be sent a link to this landing page here. And then they kind of choose their like subscription level. And it looks like there's a problem with like my CSS. So some of the text is showing up in white, but that's okay. For this, I think it should be okay. So yeah, basically you select your subscription level, you get like different perks and different pricing levels for each one. And then we'll select this one here, and then we'll continue. And then, you type in, your name and your email address. And then you choose your subscription tier. And we actually have this hooked up to a core Lightning node that's running in the cloud. And the idea is like, depending on how like sophisticated you want to get to it with your programming, you could have this thing generate, a unique Bolt 12 offer for every single user or customer you have. We decided to make 9 pre-built Bolt 12 offers for ours. So I just selected, I want to subscribe for 6 months, and I get like a 5%, discount perk for subscribing for 6 months. And I don't actually have the back end running in the background right now. Turned it off after the hackathon, so this loading screen is actually never going to resolve. But let me see if I can pull up the Figma like link that shows you what happens next. What is Figma doing? So yeah, after that loading screen, what would happen is it takes you to the checkout screen. Boom, time to check out, and this thing right here is an offer, and we actually set it up so that it fetches one of the offers from our server and then delivers it to the web browser. And so when I said we had 9 pre-built offers, that's because if you'll remember, we had a couple different options. So we had 3 different subscription tiers. You can subscribe for 6 months, 3 months, or just pay like 1 month at a time. And then we also had 3 different like price point levels. So the idea is, and then you would get like a different like pricing perk depending on how many months you subscribed for. So 3 times 3 is like 9 possible permutations. So we just had on our server backend, we had 9 different Bolt 12 offers. And then what would happen is just for the, like, I think for the hackathon, we just used the copy button and we copied the offer to our clipboard. And because Core Lightning is so experimental, we had to copy that into like a terminal tab. Like were logged into the terminal, or logged into our server via SSH. So we basically had to go in. It was a little bit ghetto, but we had to go in and go into like the developer tooling and basically paste in our offer, have it give us an invoice, and then we took that invoice and we paid that invoice, the invoice that we fetched from the offer. So it was real cool. It was super experimental because, like I said, really only Core Lightning supports it right now, and you have to custom build your own copy of Core Lightning. Like you have to like turn on all these experimental flags and build it yourself while you're working on it. So there's no way like I would recommend any business deploy this like tomorrow morning. It's just too rough and experimental. But we proved that we could actually create a website that delivers offers and have the node send you invoices based on those offers. We just proved on a very raw experimental level that we can integrate it with a user interface and make it work and all of that. And that's kind of that it was a fun little project. So yeah, that's kind of why I was stoked to talk about offers with everybody today. And yeah, so that's really all I have to say about that project. But B1, you had a question or a comment. And if you were talking right now, you are on mute. I'm not sure if you meant to like raise your hand or if that was on accident, but. Thank you, Dulce. Gotcha, it was an accident. So, but yeah, that was pretty much that project, and it's all open source. If anybody wants to mess with it, like I said, I mean, if you're trying to run a business and do subscription payments and all this kind of stuff, you would probably want to use LNURL. But we just thought it would be fun to kind of see what we could do with kind of run offers through the stress test. one argument that I will drop, or one paper I'll drop in the chat here, because we're kind of getting close to the hour here, is this says, there's kind of some criticisms about Bolt 12. You'll hear about kind of this free messaging topic and all of this. And I thought this was kind of there's claims that, Bolt 12 creates this denial of service attack security loophole. And I thought that this paper kind of laid out a counter argument to that. So I'll drop that in the chat if anybody is super curious about diving into the technical details of that. But that's basically, that's kind of the general gist. That's a overview of some of the perks of what Bolt 12 can do for the user, and all of that. And yeah, so does anybody have any kind of, I don't know, questions or general takeaways? Like, how's everybody feeling about offers? Are you interested in offers? Do you want to build a Lightning wallet tomorrow that supports offers, or do you hate this idea, or what's up? Hey, Dulce.
I just want to say thank you again, Stephen. It was so awesome. I think I got more excited now that I see the website and the use cases. Like I listened to several podcasts about Bolt 12 and like the use cases, like kind of have a Patreon in Bitcoin. But what you did with your team and you and your team did for the hackathon is super cool. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this workshop of hands-on. Thank you so much, Stefan. I'm so excited that I want to do it right now for a project.
Oh, thank you. I'm just going to, put everything, assemble all these, this mess of browser tabs I have into the FigJam document, and we can let that be the call notes. If anybody wants to read any of this stuff after the fact, I'll have it all here for you. General kind of housekeeping note, I think for the next learning call, there's also been a lot of chatter about Fediment lately. Another kind of topic I'm super interested in, and I'd kind of like to, just to do the topic some justice, I'd like to kind of see if I can get someone from the Fediment project to come, talk to us about it, or failing that, I'm happy to get up and blab about it, but it'd be cool if we could get somebody from their project to join us for one of these calls. And also, just as an experiment, I might try shifting for the next one, this call time, just a little bit, because I know some people find these calls valuable, and but people in other parts of the world can't make it. So I might try to, like, I don't know, it's like about 2 in the afternoon for me right now. 1 when the call started. I might try and shift it more to, like, I don't know, 9 or 10 in the morning for me or something, so that people that are in Australia and Western Europe and all that could make it a little easier. So if you have questions or comments on that, just let me know. But I might try and play around with the time zones a little bit, just to give some other people a chance to join. Well, cool. Any other final comments or questions before I kill today's recording?
Stephen, thank you. It was awesome.
Oh, thank you for joining, Jacob. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording, and thanks for joining, everybody, and I will see you all next time.